Give y'all a minute to get up in here. What's good, y'all? Please hit that like button. You know, as you can see, I got 1 like and 0 views so far. Oh, there we go. Give y'all a minute to get up in here. Those events are synced up together. Interesting, Richard. Interesting. How so? Kelvin Black was good. We're gonna get into it. I don't personally see a link between Chicago and Buffalo, the Buffalo shooting, but we'll talk about it. You know, I wanted to give myself a couple days. By the way, it's May 17th, 2022 on a Tuesday. And, you know, I'm in South Carolina where it's sunny. Sunny, kind of warm, you know, we're getting into that season. So I'm looking forward to going to the beach. You know, apparently the beaches on this side of the coast is a little different. They're warmer. Anyway, you know, I wanted to give it a few days, you know, before I talked about this, what the conservatives are saying about this, you know, this shooting. Excuse me. And it's like, pardon me, I'm belching. It's like, it's hard for them to go ahead and admit, especially black conservatives, you know what I'm saying? You know, the bad shining black conservatives who, for some reason, always has to take it back to Chicago, okay? And they're not just doing Chicago this time. They're talking about Waukesha, all right? Y'all know what happened in Waukesha. Some dude drove through a crowd of people, and people thought it was racially motivated because whatever the case may be. Something to do with him having an issue with, what's that kid's name? The one that just got off for self-defense. Forgot his name. Anyway, you know, I'm not surprised by what I found. I'm not surprised by the talking points of these black conservatives and certain other conservatives and people like Tim Pool, their take on this whole, you know, Buffalo shooting. Now, the Buffalo shooting is an isolated incident in terms of it has nothing to do with Chicago shootings. It has nothing to do with what happened in Waukesha, okay? There were 2 to 3 separate incidents, 3 separate things going on, all right? And so I find it interesting that how people will bring up, you know, the shootings in Chicago. Oh, we had four shootings this weekend. We had 12 last weekend and 30 the other weekend. And it's like, why are we talking about that when we have an issue here with a person walking up into a grocery store where there are a lot of black people and specifically targeting black people? What does one have to do with the other? Why are we talking about that? Why are we talking about Waukesha? What's the relation? Oh, well, yeah. And it's so hard for these conservatives to admit that this attack was racially motivated. If it wasn't for the manifesto, right? Oh, they would flat out deny it. Oh, we don't know if it was white supremacy. We don't know any of that. But well, yeah, it was white supremacy, but what about Waukesha? That was right. That was black extremism. You know what I'm saying? What about Chicago? You got black people killing black people. Don't nobody worry about that. Don't nobody say nothing about that. When that's not fucking true. There are people that are very vocal about what's going on in Chicago, and they're trying to make shit happen in Chicago. But these black conservatives don't want to look past their fucking nose to see the shit. That's just the reality of it. Let me see what y'all talking about up in here. Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse. Richard, Buffalo shooting was synced up with the Christchurch shooting and the Ides of March, the 74th day of the year in gematria. Right. Yeah, I know. There's going to be a link to everything. Everything is connected, right? Everything in the universe is connected in some form or fashion. I mean, the guy brought up the Christchurch shooting in his manifesto. Perhaps he did that. Perhaps he said, well, you know what? I'm going to do it on this day because of gematria. Maybe he's into gematria. I don't know. Maybe he's in numerology. What I do know is gematria and the practitioners of it were not able to stop this shooting from happening. That's what I do know. And every ritual that they talk about, ritual this, ritual that, they're always talking about it after the fact. I don't ever see them stopping a ritual from occurring. You understand what I'm saying? And if there are, send me an email. Send me an email where somebody's talking about some shit before it happened. Like specifically, something that could prevent an event like this from happening. Snapzillagorilla@gmail.com. Please, somebody. One of my mods, I don't have a mod in here right now. Snapzillagorilla@gmail.com. Snapzilla with 2 L's and gorilla, G-U-E gorilla, with 2 R's and 2 L's @gmail.com. And then, I'll look at it and then I'll go from there. Let's see. I'm going to say this, though. At the latest ABO video saying that the Buffalo shooting was racially motivated. And you seen his video about it. Yes, I did see that. But, once again, they have to steer it towards Chicago, black on black crime, all this other stuff. Which is fine to talk about, but why talk about it in a relation to the Buffalo shooting? Is it somehow related? Is black people killing each other, is that something that is a huge problem that needs to be addressed? Absolutely. And people are addressing it. They're addressing it. They're just not getting the funding. They're not getting the support that they need to do it. They're not getting it. There's no funds for that. They got money to send to Ukraine. You know what I'm saying? They got money to send to Pakistan for gender studies. They got money to see how turtles can be happy, all that type of shit. But they don't want to spend no money for gang violence prevention. And people are constantly seeking out money to do that. I know people that are in Chicago right now that are trying to do something to stop the violence, but no one is giving them that type of funding that they will need to really turn shit around. And they're not getting the notoriety. They're not getting the press. Because in reality, they don't care about what's going on in Chicago. All they care about is pointing out Chicago when it comes to white folks killing black people, or a white cop kill a black cop. Or well, what about Chicago? There's no outrage for that. No, you don't see the outrage because you don't care to. And if you don't care to see the outrage, then you're not gonna see the outrage, and then you're gonna have a reason to say that you don't see the outrage. Again, we call these things all day, every day. I call it game 7 before it happened, and the day before the game. How would it all be a part of 33? Okay, Richard, so you're talking about a football game, and from the Buffalo shooting in Buffalo, FBI being established is a span of 74 days, and Tops was established on OJ's birthday. He's 74. Okay. All right. That's fine. Frank Zappa says, well, conservatives are upset because people aren't talking about Waukesha. Okay, so talk about Waukesha. You talk about if you feel like no one's talking about Waukesha, then talk about Waukesha. No one's stopping you. Brandon Tatum has a huge platform. ABL has a huge platform. Jesse Lee Peterson, whoever else. Tim Pool has a huge platform. All these motherfuckers complaining about how nobody's talking about it. You have the platform, and you have the people, and you have the ears. You have the reach. You have the voice that can reach out. If you want to talk about Waukesha, go ahead and talk about it. Fox News, highest ratings of any other news organization. Go ahead and talk about Waukesha. If that's what you want to do, no one's stopping you. No one's stopping you. But to use, to piggyback off of the Buffalo shooting, to do that, well, I mean, come on. We're talking about a professed a super supremacist who, by the way, said he was not a conservative. He said he was basically a moderate leftist. You understand what I'm saying? We're upset because Chicago, Waukesha, whatever happens, and the liberal news does not cover it at all. So cover it. See, why are you relying on mainstream media to talk about the important shit that you feel is important? We know that they don't. We know that they propagandize everything. And we know they're going to use Buffalo as propaganda to push gun control. We know that, right? It's no coincidence that they introduced this Blair Holt motherfucking act when they did, which most people don't know about, right? Which calls for basically a registry where you have to get a license to carry a firearm. You have to get a license to buy a firearm. You know what I'm saying? It's bullshit. U.S. Rep. Bobby Rush and Senator Tammy Duckworth has reintroduced the Blair Holt Firearms Licensing Act. So they want you to get a firearms license to get a firearm. See what I'm saying? They're in New York, where this is basically the case. These things that they want to introduce on a federal level, the licensing, all that type of shit, you got to do that in New York. And guess what happened in that motherfucking Top store in New York? The people that obeyed laws like these were sitting ducks. And they were able to be picked off one by one. This is the problem. You understand what I'm saying? They want you to be victims. They love that shit. They love to use mass shootings like this, like the one in Buffalo, to push this gun control shit. Because they feel like, oh, the people are so stupid, they're gonna be begging for gun control now. They think we're stupid enough to beg for gun control after a bunch of people without a firearm in a store was taken out by one individual with a firearm who did not obey the firearm laws that they have in New York. That's the problem. But no one's talking about that because why? Keep in mind, both shootings to season opener September 8th is exactly 117 days later. Both shootings to season opener. Okay. It is a coincidence that a day before the NFL said the season opener would start September 8th between LA Rams and the Bills. A day later, we get the shootings in Buffalo and LA. Okay, so what? So what does that do? What is that doing for the NFL? Is that something for the NFL? Is that these rituals? What do the rituals do? Do they bring about power to the elites? Because I will agree that the elites do pull a lot of shit. They do orchestrate a lot of shit behind the scenes to make shit happen that will work in their favor. And for me, what I'm seeing is what logically follows, right, in their mind, is to introduce this gun control shit, because fresh mass shooting, bunch of black people killed. We can get a bunch of black people on board with accepting gun control. To me, that makes a lot of sense. They're not getting the press. That's the point. But they have Fox News, right? You got these people, Brandon Tatum and ABL, all these cats. They don't need mainstream news. They have millions of followers among themselves. Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Tim Pool, all these people, they can get together. Hell, fucking Joe Rogan. All these people can get together and make shit happen. Excuse me. Stop relying on mainstream news to push anything. And if you're comfortable talking, because the mainstream media is not going to tie Chicago to the Buffalo shooting. But if these people, these conservatives, can talk about that, then what stopped them from talking about it before? Why use this platform? Why use this incident to bring up that? Do they really care about Chicago? Or they just love to use it as a talking point? Do they really care about the motivation behind what happened in Waukesha? Or do they like the narrative? Do they enjoy the narratives? Can they use the narrative to push the ideas they want to push? That's the question you got to ask yourself. The first bangers were not Jays. They were Knights Templars, a group of Catholic knights. Let's see. Exactly, but it's not just news. It's over literal government that's going to use Buffalo for their gain to ignore the rest. Well, it's not the people in Chicago's fault, right? Is it? It's not black people's fault that the government is using the plight of black people to push their agenda. So why so much disdain for the black community? So much so that you got to bring, Chicago this, Chicago that, black on black crime, blah, 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 52% and the 49%. All these numbers come from the FBI. And how did the FBI get these numbers? So we trust the FBI now? Because there was a point where the conservatives did not trust the FBI, but they trust the FBI when it comes to those statistics. And how did they get those statistics? They had to get them from each and every fucking police department. They don't collect the data themselves. No, they had the police departments all over the country has to push this information up to the FBI. And you think they're going to give you 100% accurate information every time? See, Frank's up exactly, but it's not the news. I got what you're saying, but it's the same thing when conservative media does a report on police terrorism, even though everybody talks about it. Hell, they focus on being pro-police. Exactly. No, what they do is whenever there's police terrorism, they blame the victim of the police terrorism. That's what they do. They find a way to make it the black conservative's fault. Not the black conservative. They find a way to make it the victim of police terrorism is always going to be at fault in the conservatives' minds. Because they have to spit shine that badge. For what? I have no idea. Because at the end of the day, if they sent the Gestapo to the conservatives' door, do you think that you being conservative is going to stop them from taking your ass and doing what they want with you? I don't think so. So all this pro-police shit that y'all doing, they will not give you that same energy. They will completely violate your rights. Believe that to retrieve that. Upset over the stage psyop, and then they got fake scripted sports to get entertained. So what's the solution? Because I got to be honest about the gematria. There's nothing wrong with learning about it. But all you can do with gematria, and from what I see, is after some shit happens, you can use numbers to tie it to other shit. Right? The gematria calendar and the calculator. But what's the solution? Either way, you have the elites manipulating the shit that's going on in this country. You got the elites manipulating and controlling the masses, right? Through politics, through entertainment. We know that, right? Give them bread and circuses and they shall never revolt. We know this. So what do we need to do? What's the solution? The solution is to revolt. To unseat the elites that are controlling the situations that we go, controlling our daily lives, man. To me, that's what I see. That's the solution. All for Lulu says, "Hey Bane, I was wondering why you wasn't getting notification. You changed the channel name." Oh yeah. Yep. But you still should get the notification whether I change my channel name or not. Phrase up says, James, all for pro-police that believes in extreme police reform that costs money. That's not true. All you're putting words in people's mouths. Who is? Plenty of duping the light on people who are in the store. I don't believe it, psyop. All the big events are surrounded by numbers and symbols. Okay, so what? What do we do with that information? Not to mention, Snap, they got out their way to crap on blacks. Just like liberal media is sometimes biased towards whites, it's just another way of both. Exactly. I'm all for zero government. What's what's the point? What's the point of government? Government is destruction. Always has been. Government is destruction. And that's just what it is. But it's I already knew. And there's always a something behind it. There's always something behind it. You got Joe Biden out in Buffalo talking about gun violence. I didn't watch it, but I'm pretty sure he's pushing gun control. Pretty sure he's pushing gun control. Now he got this fucking Blair Holt Act, which seeks to force people to get licenses to carry a firearm, much like an FOID. All that does is that's just going to get more money, snatch more money from you, more control for the government. It's an infringement, point blank and period. Shall not be infringed. That's what it says. Shall not be infringed, and this is what this is going to do. Holt was an honor student at Percy Julian High School when he died trying to protect a classmate as a purported gang member opened fire on a crowded CTA bus who was allegedly trying to shoot a rival on May 10th, 2007. Witnesses said Blair pushed a female classmate down in her seat, shielding her from bullets from the gunman's .40 caliber pistol. This is very sad. This is horrible. Horrible. Holt's mother, Ann Nance Holt, was appointed commissioner of the Chicago Fire Department last year. All right, so they want to force us, and this would apply to the states where the concealed carry, or open constitutional carry. You would have to basically get licensed, and then you would have to. There's not much in the bill right now. I know, like I said, it was reintroduced, and it had an old title. It was a completely different bill before. But basically, it is to provide for the implementation of a system of licensing for purchases of certain firearms, and for record of sale system for those firearms, and for other purposes. Record of sale system. What does that sound? What is that? A record of sale system. What is that another word for? Can anybody tell me? And Biden using tragedy to push gun control is what conservatives are upset about. And we point to Waukesha and Chicago to say, well, why don't you have anything to say about that? Because we know. We know that is manipulation. But you can say that at any point. You can have a video, but hell, the title of your video could be, why doesn't Joe Biden talk about Waukesha? Why doesn't, you know what I'm saying? And right? Why are you trying to deflect and detract from the fact that this white supremacist walked up in a store and killed a bunch of black people? You don't have to wait for a mass shooting where black people die to talk about Waukesha in Chicago. You can do a whole 30-minute, 100-hour video about Waukesha, about Chicago. Why doesn't the media talk about Chicago? Just said it right there, baby. Why doesn't the media talk about Chicago? And then just leave it at that, and then talk about that. No Nonsense Stucky was good. Exactly. Kelvin Black. Registration. That's what this record of sale system is. And guess what? Registration? That's illegal. They're not supposed to there's not supposed to be any registration. But, you know, it's illegal, and they're breaking the law in California, and now they're trying to do the same thing here. But it's going to be federal. They're going to push this. It's going to go through the House. I don't know if it's going to go through the Senate, but I think Joe Manchin is probably going to put a stop to it. I don't know. We'll see. Because this is complete overreach. Complete overreach. Anything the government does is overreach, actually. Oh, hold on. Findings and purposes. You know, I'm gonna go through this a little bit. I'm gonna go through a little bit of this with y'all. The manufacture, distribution, findings and purposes. The manufacture, distribution, and importation of firearms is inherently commercial in nature. Firearms regularly move in interstate commerce, and this is their justification for this nationwide registry and licensing scheme. To the extent that the firearm is trafficking is interstate in nature, it arises out of it and is substantially connected to commercial transaction that, when viewed in the aggregate, substantially affects interstate commerce. Well, they're saying legally sold firearms are being moved all over the country, straw purchases and whatnot. But is the licensing and registration scheme, is that going to stop that? No, because a motherfucker can just sell his firearm. He can buy firearms. He has an FOID, right? A federal FOID. He buys some firearms, and he can fucking sell them anyway, and just say, oh, well, somebody stole my shit. and it's reported stolen. This bill is not going to stop that. What it's going to stop, what it's going to do is the law-abiding citizens are going to go ahead and they're going to fucking register their firearms. The law-abiding citizen, they're going to be the ones to suffer from this bill, not the criminal. The criminal can still get their shit. This is not going to stop that. You understand? That's what Chicago, has FOID. And this is what the thing is. Oh, it's coming from Indiana, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so if you did the same shit, if you had the same gun control laws in Indiana, you're still going to have these problems in Chicago. It's not going to stop anything. But, associated with the majority of homicides, firearm-related assaults in the United States during the 19-year period between 2001 and 2019 were associated with the majority of homicides and half of all suicides. And the seventh leading cause of non-fatal violent injuries. Now, what might have some of those homicides be? Right? Because according to the CDC, up to 2 million people save their own lives. Up to 2 million people, 2 million lives are saved per year with the use of firearms. And some of those homicides could be the criminal that is attacking the person that they're attacking, right? It says homicide. Homicide just means that you were killed. One human being was killed by another human being. It doesn't mean that it was a murder, right? See how these words, majority of homicides. A cop kills someone, let's say a cop kills somebody justifiably. That's still homicide, justifiable homicide. That's going to be counted, right? Cops use a firearm. They're going to count that in these numbers. See, you can't fall for the bullshit. Buck Nasty was good. Lulu says, strange how there isn't a lot of shootings during 2020 and 2021. Guess the criminals were really staying home. There were. I mean, in certain places. In the places where there was, a lot of gun control. Buck Nasty says, Chomos down, G's up. That's what's up. I'm with that. Fuck with my numbers. It is what it is. So let's go to licensing requirement. Okay. Title I, licensing. Firearm licensing requirement. Subject to paragraphs, it shall be unlawful for any individual other than a licensed importer, licensed manufacturer, licensed dealer, or licensed collector to possess a qualifying firearm on or after the applicable date, unless the individual has a valid firearm owner license, or state firearm license. Exemptions. Federal, state, tribal law enforcement officer while engaged in the performance of official duties. Ooh, they're special. They're special, but only when they're carrying out their official duties. Tribal? Oh, what? Wait, tribal law? So this would affect those individuals who have sovereignty, right? Like the tribes, they're going to have to go by this. But I thought they had their own shit going on. Oh, but government does what government does, right? Can't nobody be free around this motherfucker. A member of Armed Forces, National Guard, while engaged in performance of official duties, and that's it. A federal employee who is required to carry a qualifying firearm in the capacity of the individual as a federal employee while engaged in performance of duties. Those are some of the exceptions, right? There's more numbers. There's other numbers of exceptions. Individual with state firearm license not later than 60 days after the date on which the individual who has a state license moves from state in which the state firearms license, blah, blah, blah. It's bullshit. Issuing revocation and renewal of firearm license. In subsection, blah, blah, blah. Oh, right. you're going to have to go through a psychological evaluation, right? So here's some definitions. A term, clinical psychologist, means a psychologist licensed or registered to practice psychology in the state in which the psychologist practices, who has a doctoral degree from regionally accredited university, college, or professional school, and not less than 2 years of supervised experience in health services. So you're going to have to go through a psychological evaluation. Woo. Regulations concerning submissions. The Attorney General shall promulgate regulations specifying procedures for the submission of the application under the paragraph A to the Attorney General that shall provide a submission of application through a licensed dealer or an office or agency of the federal government designated by the Attorney General. Now, good luck getting the states to enforce this shit. Require the applicant to provide valid identification document of the applicant containing a photograph of the applicant to the licensed dealer or to the office or agency of the federal government as applicable at the time of submission of the application to that licensed dealer, office, agency, and require the completed application be forwarded to the Attorney General not later than 48 hours after the application is submitted to the licensed dealer or office or agency of the federal government. Wow. Fee amount. The amount of fee collected under the subparagraph shall be not less than the amount determined by the Attorney General. Well, this motherfucker got a lot of power, don't he? To be necessary to ensure that the total amount of all fees collected under the subparagraph during the fiscal year is sufficient to cover the cost of carrying out this subsection during the fiscal year, but such amount shall not exceed $10. Now, not only do they want us to hand over more control to them, they want us to pay to implement the handing over the control to them. They want us to pay them to stop us from, they want us to pay them for infringing on our rights to keep and bear arms. Okay, so issuance and licensees. Not later than 30 days after the date which the application is submitted under paragraph 2, the Attorney General shall issue a firearm owner license to an applicant who has submitted the application that meets the requirements under paragraph 2. If after conducting a fingerprint-based nationwide criminal background check using the rolled fingerprints of the applicant submitted to the application, the Attorney General determines that the applicant is not prohibited by subsection blah, 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 is not younger than 21, is younger than 21 and has submitted written proof of consent of the parent or legal guardian of the applicant required under paragraph blah, blah, blah. So if you're 18, you're an adult. Unless you want to get a firearm, then you got to get permission from your parents, even though you might not be living with them. You might have a job, you might have your own place, your own crib, paying your own bills. You have to get written permission from your parents as a motherfucker between 18 and 20 to obtain a firearm under this law. Was not a patient in a mental facility during a 5-year period preceding the date of which application is submitted. So there could be many reasons I would be in a psychiatric ward or in a mental health facility. It could be anything. So I can't get a firearm because I was in a mental health facility for 5 years. Who knows what that could be for? But if it's 5 years, it just is what it is. Has not been convicted of misdemeanor other than a traffic offense or adjudged delinquent. So a misdemeanor, not a felony, a misdemeanor is not an individual with an intellectual or developmental disability. How are they going to determine that? Is not subject to or order of protection prohibiting the applicant from possessing a firearm? What was the protection order for? Like, does this have to be proven in court, or could it just be somebody says, oh, well, I did order for protection from this individual. Now they can't get a firearm. See all this bullshit? If the applicant was a patient in a mental health facility during a period ending more than 5 years before the date of which the application is submitted and had received a qualifying mental health evaluation, does not have a mental condition that makes the applicant a clear and present danger to the individual or others. And now, how are they going to determine if you have a mental condition? How are they going to determine that? This is a hell of an overreach right here. Has not intentionally made a false statement in the application under paragraph 2. How did they know it's intentional or not? All this shit is subjective and ridiculous. Effect of issuance of prohibited individuals. A firearm owner license issued under the paragraph shall be null and void if issued to an individual who is prohibited by subsection G or N of section 922, blah, blah, blah. So here are some of the things that you need to get the license. Form of licenses. A firearm owner license issued under paragraph shall be in the form of a temper-resistant card and shall include photograph, date of birth, all this bullshit. I mean, it's just a lot, man. There's a lot to it. And clear infringements. Sell or transfer requirements. I mean, additional prohibitions. Because that's what we need, right? Is more prohibitions in this fucking country. It shall be unlawful for any person who is not licensed importer, licensed manufacturer, licensed dealer to transfer a firearm to any other person who is not licensed, unless a licensee importer, manufacturer, dealer is first taking possession of the firearm. So if I own something, now this is an inanimate object, right? This right here. It's not alive. It doesn't have a brain. This is a tool, right? Transfer. It doesn't say sell. So if I want to transfer this, a transfer that is a loan or a bona fide gift between law enforcement agency or any officer, armed private professional, or a member of armed forces to the extent, or there's some exceptions, to the officer, professional, or a member is acting within the spouse, of course, or in scope of the employment of official duties. Transfer that is a loan or bona fide gift between spouse, domestic partners, parents, and their children, including stepbrothers and sisters, siblings, aunts, uncles. So you can transfer to those people. A transfer to an executor, administrative trustee, or personal representative of an estate or a trust that occurs by operation of law and the death of another person. So there are some exceptions. But if I have a buddy, wait, does it say cousins? No, aunts and uncles, no cousins. Where does this apply? If I want to hand, if we're at the range and I'm like, look, man, you want to let a few down range? You want to let off a few down range? I gotta give it to a motherfucking license, a licensee first. Utter overreach. You understand? Utter overreach. This tool is mine. I bought it. It belongs to me. The government does not have a lien on my firearm, on my tool. It belongs to me. It's mine. But I got to get permission from the government, or I got to let the government know through a licensor, through a licensee. Look, I'm going to give my own property. I'm going to transfer my property to somebody else. I got to inform the government of that. Does this belong to me if I have to do this? Does this belong to me if I have to do that? That's the question of the ages, right? Never let a good crisis go to waste. And instead of saying what they should be saying, which is get you one of these and ensure your protection. And if you live in a state that will criminalize you for possessing one of these and carrying it to keep yourself safe, then you might want to think about getting the fuck out of there or making some changes within your community so that you can carry. They should be empowering the people. They don't want to empower the people. They want to introduce bullshit like this so that they can control you. They know that prohibiting these is not going to stop the shit that they're saying that is going to stop. They know that, right? It's been proven time and time again. But it's not about that. It's not about preventing that. It's about not allowing you to have this shit if they don't want you to have it. Psychological evaluations, very subjective. What science is that based on? Brain chemistry, all this other shit. And this is the problem. And this is what we need to be talking about. This is what we need to be addressing when it comes to mass shootings. Every time there's a mass shooting, we should be saying, look, we need to get rid of these gun laws. And we need to allow people to empower themselves and carry a firearm wherever they choose to go. So that if someone decides that they want to walk up into a place and let off, their mission is going to be cut short by every other individual in that place that has one of these to defend themselves. As simple as that. That's the solution. That's the solution. An armed society is a polite society. And I believe that it's not just cliche. Gaming with Stan says these things might be MK Ultra things to remove gun rights. Whatever the case may be, we need to be thinking the opposite. Every time there's a mass shooting, we need to be thinking about less gun control. That's real shit. The less gun control, the better. You know, there was a shooting in the mall in Columbia, South Carolina, but it was like a couple of individuals going at it. It wasn't like an intention, like they weren't going in there to shoot a bunch of people, and some people got injured. But that wasn't, you know, the individual that was getting shot at was also shooting. No one got killed. People got injured, but the point is this. If you have a concealed carry license in South Carolina, you can carry in the mall, you can carry wherever, and wherever it doesn't show a sign that says you can't carry a concealed weapon here. And just because, and then look, getting a concealed is also an infringement. Having to do that, it should definitely be constitutional carry, every state. But people who don't want to carry or don't feel like it's necessary or afraid of guns or whatever, they're not going to just start carrying because a law passed saying they could, right? Or a law was struck down by a court that said that you can't infringe on people's rights. That doesn't mean people are going to start picking up firearms. But I tell you what's going to make them, or would then make so many more people pick up firearms and buy firearms for the first time. What happened with the pandemic, you know? After the lockdowns, people were going out in droves first-time gun buyers. 10 million more in 2020. And I think it was 18 million more in 2021. Why? Because they knew that the government couldn't protect them. They knew that shit was going on, and you know, the government wasn't going to do shit for them. And somehow we forgot that. If that happened every time there was a mass shooting, if people said, oh shit, motherfuckers walking up in malls, in grocery stores, just letting off on people randomly, I need to carry. I need to buy me a firearm. Then everybody would be armed in this bitch. But it is what it is. The people will win. The people will win. I know that. We just got to keep talking sense into these people. We got to keep putting the real information out there. And we can't let fear rule us. We can't let fear dictate our actions. I'm not saying you can't experience fear or feel fear. What I'm saying is don't let the fear control you. Don't let it dictate your every move. Don't let fear allow you to rely on the government to do shit. Because the government has demonstrated time and again that they won't do shit for you. And that's real. Anyway. Game says that for the people that don't know what MK Ultra is and mind control that CIA gang came up with. Yeah. Jenny Miller says the thing with the top supermarket, they had the security guard in the store, but he was gunned down by the Buffalo shooter. If only the other people in the store had firearms on them. Exactly. Then he probably would have been the only motherfucker that got killed. Because he apparently he got shot through the glass. And the guy knew who he was. That's why if there's a choice between concealed carry and open carry, I'm going to concealed carry. You know what I'm saying? Because just because I have a gun don't mean that people can't get the drop on me. That don't mean that I won't get caught slipping. But anyway, I'm going to end this live stream. Interesting how they didn't kill Peyton. Who's Peyton? Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you. I'm going to keep a close eye on this Blair Holt Act. Apparently it's not an act that they need 60 votes in the Senate for. They only need 51. So hopefully they won't get that 51, but we'll see. Anyway, much love, like, share, subscribe. You know what I'm saying? And let's keep marching forward toward freedom. Peace.